Hello everyone, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in, watching this little video of top tips, reminders perhaps of some of the things, little techniques that can help us as we put online church together. And hopefully also they can serve those people who perhaps haven't been involved yet, who may be thinking they would like to contribute but a little bit unsure. Hopefully these can help in terms of what to do and how to do it. By way of introduction, I think it's important to state right at the top that we must guard against just trying to replicate what we're used to doing in our church buildings on screens and on phones and on cameras. It's not about that. It's a very different medium and it needs different rules and a different approach. It's as if you think of a stage play, very rarely do they go to a theatre and just point cameras at a stage play. They create a film, a different medium. And it's like that. It's a very different approach. And we need to remember that as we go forward. And finally, before we move on to the top tips, I just want to say, we don't have to be perfect. This is not Netflix with a bottomless budget. It's about creating community. It's about enabling people to feel connected as a worshipping family and connected to God in these strange times. It's a way, using the gifts of technology that we have and the people that we have, to just let people know they're not alone and that we can still gather as the family of God. So if we don't follow these top tips precisely, don't worry. We're doing a great job so far, but let's just see if there's anything that can help us to make it better, then let's go for it. It might be a surprise to see that the number one point is about sound. But believe me, you could be David Attenborough in the middle of the Serengeti. If you can't be heard, there's really not much point. So this is important. And if you're going to contribute a lot to online church, then it might be worth investing in a little microphone or even upgrading your phone or your camera just to get the very best quality. But if not, it's very simple. Get nice and close to the camera because that's where the microphone is, and find a nice quiet spot. Now I know it's so tempting to be outside, especially when the weather is warmer. After all, your garden is probably far more interesting than whatever background you find inside. But you've got to be super confident that you're not going to be distracted by a dog barking or an aeroplane going over or someone using an angle grinder across the fence, because those things are distracting. And at the end of the day, we want to hear what you have to say. So it usually means be indoors, find a nice quiet place and get nice and close to the camera. Which brings me on to the next point. Your eyes are amazing things, and most of the time much better than any camera. We tend not to notice too much if we're in low light, but cameras struggle and need a bit more help. And even the brightest bulbs in your home can not look very good on camera sometimes. There really is no substitute for daylight, and it's free. So if at all possible, position yourself by a window so that you're lit by daylight. If it's a particularly sunny day, be careful that you're not kind of blasted, but it's always great to be lit by daylight, and then you'll get a really nice balance. Careful never to shoot with the window behind you, because then you'll be a silhouette. But if you can be close to a window, that would be great. And it doesn't really matter if you're sitting down or standing up, whatever is most comfortable. But something that I really do think is important, and how do I put this delicately? I don't want to see up your nose. And however nice your ceiling might be, I don't want to see it. What I mean is, this doesn't look quite as good as this. So if at all possible, get the camera to the level of your eyes. That might mean borrowing a tripod or doing some creative work with a pile of books or something like that. But try and get it up to the level of your eyes and it will work much, much better. Next, if you're reading, and a lot of things we do on online church, we are reading, that's fine. Personally, I think it looks much more natural to have the script below the camera as you normally would, because that's what we're used to, aren't you? You would expect people to look down to read and then look up. It's tempting to put the script off camera next to the camera, but I find that a little bit distracting if you're looking over there. And that, in fact, is my next point. We've had eye level, this is eye line. And it's really important, this, I see it a lot. And I know why it is. It's because we film a lot of what we do on selfie mode, so where you see yourself on the screen. Trouble with that is, you naturally look at the screen, don't you, to see yourself. But that's not where the lens is. The lens might be this tiny dot just here, not here where the screen is. And I'll demonstrate, it's only a few millimeters, but the effect is dramatic. So if I stop looking at my lens and start looking at my screen, I'm suddenly not looking you in the eye. And if I did that in conversation, you'd be wondering, who's he talking to? It seems a bit rude. And it's the same on camera. The people that you're speaking to, their eyes, their face is directly down your lens. So find that little dot and talk to that. Finally, and actually I have to praise everybody here. We've come a long way, but just a final reminder, please, 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 film landscape, not portrait. Landscape, not portrait. So it's just the way televisions and screens are shaped. They are shaped that way, but we tend to film on our phones like that. Please don't. Turn them on the side and film like that. It'll look much better and it saves me a lot of cropping. Thank you. There's a bit of a myth I've heard over the years that anybody can be a TV presenter. Well, maybe after all these months of online church, we realised that is false. That the people that we love on TV, the people that we don't like on TV are there usually for good reason, that they're very good at it. And it's an art form, it's a skill, and it takes years of practice. And the best people obviously do it really naturally. But take heart, I guarantee you, every single person has felt daunted the first few times they've been on camera. Because you see all your idiosyncrasies that you never knew you had. You see your hesitations and you see yourself in a different way. But don't worry, we're not expecting polished professionals. But there are some things that we can do that can just help. There was a saying when I worked in children's TV, people used to say to presenters and contributors on screen, be yourself plus 20%. Be yourself plus 20%. What they mean by that is, don't try and be somebody that you're not. You know, if you're a retired gentleman who's never used to being on screen, don't try and be Anton Deck. But equally, don't just be yourself, put a little bit more in. You know, so you might talk a little bit louder. You might be a little bit more animated, a little bit more confident, because as I say, it's a different medium and it needs a different approach. And perhaps most importantly, relax as much as you can. Find that quiet space where you've got the camera settled and give yourself time to settle. So if you can find that way of coming across, maybe calming yourself down, taking a few breaths, maybe do the whole thing a few times, it will really help. And smile. Obviously when appropriate. If you're leading prayers of intercession, you know, you don't want to be grinning. It's when it's appropriate. And like I say, it's being yourself plus 20%, not plus 200%. But there's a saying in radio that you can hear a smile, and it's so true. The way we come across will really speak through the screen. So try not to look like you're there under duress. Take your time, smile, and think that you're speaking to people that you know and love. Oh, and finally, and this goes along with what I've just said, take your time at the beginning, before you press record and before you start speaking, but crucially, give yourself time at the end. When you've finished, count to 5 in your head before reaching for the off switch. I've had so many videos when you can see people so happy that they've got to the end of what they're doing. And it goes something like this. They start reaching for that off switch before they finished because they're relieved. And the kingdom and the glory forever and ever, off. Okay? So finish what you've got to say. Keep your gaze towards the lens, down the lens, and count to 5 in your head. And that will give me, or whoever's editing it, chance to get the scissors in without it seeming like a rush. As I said at the top, this is not a professional TV program, and if there is variation in what we get, then there's no panic. But this is a different medium and it needs different rules and a different approach. So quick fun game. Next time you watch TV, see if you can count how long each shot is kept on screen for before they cut away to a different shot or paint it with a different picture over the top. I guarantee you, almost no shots will be held for more than 20 seconds, probably a lot less. So you suddenly realise how many shots, how much work goes in to television, and we've got used to seeing that. So suddenly, when we're in this new world and you see the same shot, the same face on screen for 5, 6, 7 minutes, it feels really odd. So let's try and keep things tight. As I say, these are just rules of thumb, but for me, I think readings and prayers, we should be aiming for 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes at the very top, because it's difficult to hold the same shot for a long time. There's only a certain amount of pretty shots from Tatton Park that I can put over the top as well. Sermons, I think, are a little bit different. We're more used to sitting down and listening and watching that one person. But I would still argue that 10 minutes is probably the maximum if we can. And all of these things will just help. And if you find that your prayer or your reading is too long, it's a lot longer than that, then maybe do it again. See if you can read it a little bit quicker, or write out your prayers and edit them down. See what you really want to say. It's a really good discipline. So I hope these just help a little bit. You're doing a great job. And I think hopefully we can keep these going as long as they are needed and keep them getting better so that people can engage with each other as the family of God and engage with our faith in Jesus Christ. God bless you and thank you. Over and out.